members. Our next presenter is Stephen McCormack. Stephen is our R&D project manager in the Irish Bioenergy Association. Stephen has a degree in energy sustainability and environmental science from IT Sligo with a postgraduate in environmental sustainability from UCD, and his focus in IrBEA is delivery of our RD&D projects. And today Stephen will showcase 3 new projects, 2 of whom are Interreg Northwest Europe, and also further elaborate on the Just Transition project. And the project is co-funded, the Just Transition one, by the Government of Ireland and the European Union through the EU Just Transition Fund. So I now ask Stephen to deliver his presentation to you.
Thanks, Sean. So originally I had titled my slides here, IrBEA's Continued Interreg Northwest Europe Journey, but as Sean has mentioned, we're now involved in more than just Interreg Northwest Europe, so I changed it last minute. And then just to briefly touch upon what Sean had mentioned earlier on, so we see ourselves as the representative body for the biochar sector in Ireland, and we have an absolutely growing membership base. There's a huge surge of interest in the last 2 to 3 years in particular. But we have members who are involved in biomass supply chains and logistics, biochar producers, technology providers and consultants, analytics, researchers and end users. We have a dedicated working group within the membership, Biochar and Carbon Products, and also we are the newest member of Biochar Europe, which would be the representative body at a European level. But how did we get involved in biochar in the first place? I suppose this takes it back to maybe 2008. There was a project led by one of our project partners called Progress, which was looking to try and deal with the large volumes of conservation grassland material that was piling up across the central plains of Germany, where there were no longer grazing animals. They wanted to see if they could use technology to convert this into a combustion product. So they set upon a way of demineralizing this grassy fibrous feedstock. They would dry it, pelletize it, and use it within combustion appliances. Now that project went well, but end of waste designation meant that it wasn't really a runner for commercial outputs. Then led to the follow-up project Combine, and again that was looking at conservation grasslands, but other materials such as roadside sweepings and leaf litter and various other waste residues effectively. And that led on to the first Interreg Northwest Europe funded project, and this is where IrBEA became project partners, the Redirect project. So again, that was looking at residual biomass, so a change from the word waste biomass to residual biomass was very important, as many of you will be aware of. Waste is a dirty word within the sector. But Redirect basically ran for 3 years, and it was to see whether biochar was a suitable output for these types of materials, so whether you could convert them into a solid carbon fraction and use that for soil applications or also water treatment applications. That ran for 3 years, and then with the same consortium, we were very successful with a follow-up project, 3C, which is creating a circular carbon economy. Again, so this was the idea behind this project was to see, well, once we have this material called biochar, what can we do with it? What can we use it for? What products and services could be developed? And so we still actually have a 3C network that's active across Northwest Europe, and that project lives on. That subsequently led to the Cascade project, which runs to the end of this year, and I'll come to that in a moment. And as a result of our involvement in the Cascade project, we now just commenced 2 brand new projects, also through the Interreg Northwest Europe funded project, one called C5 and one called Valorant. So Cascade, it's 7 partner regions across Northwest Europe, and it's all about transitioning to a place-based circular economy. It's led by our long-standing partners, University of Grassland Science and University Kassel in Germany, with project coordination from Blink, which is a blended learning institute. We have partners who are involved in construction sector, that's SEDEC in Luxembourg. In green biomass management, that's Kimcrecht coming from Belgium. We have Uni La Salle in France, and then we also have the municipality of Enschede in the Netherlands as our project partners. Now, there's a link to the project video, and you can watch that in your own time. You can get it after the slides are issued to people who attend. But in terms of the actual program with any of these projects, so in Cascade, the idea was to try and do place-based implementations of biomass to biochar value chains. So in this particular instance, we chose the pilot region of Donegal in the northwest. So we can't get much more northwest in Ireland than Donegal. So we were lucky enough to have Donegal County Council as associated partners, but also Killashee, which is a social enterprise that grow under organic principles. They're also the Northwest Bioeconomy Hub. They grow fruit and vegetables and they sell and service local food markets, hotels, and shops. Now, within this actual project, so the first thing was to try and explore and identify the various different logistical challenges around collecting, processing, and conversion of residual biomass into biochar and carbon products. And then work package 2 was all around quality management and developing what we call recommender systems. So to take the learnings that all the pilot regions are looking at, the various different applications of biochar, and then making recommendations to follower regions so that the uptake can be taken in different jurisdictions. And then, as with any of these projects, there tends to be a capacity building and sort of promotion of the results to other regions. Now, there was a number of different application scenarios developed or explored through this project. So within biomaterials, the construction sector, within wastewater treatment, using biogenic activated carbon from grasslands. In Ireland, we were focused on agricultural and horticultural applications of biochar. So to service the needs of Kildare in terms of growing fresh fruit and veg, how can we combine biochar with sources of locally sourced nutrients, for example? Now that project is due to run at the end of this year. At the moment, there's a lot of work going into what's called a Carbon Managers online tool, and that will be made freely available. The idea behind the Carbon Managers tool is to allow stakeholders, municipalities, local authorities to use science-based information flow effectively to decision-making tools to see if we have a CO2 reduction target, how could we achieve that through various different applications of biochar, where can we put them? There's also upstream management decision-making tools. So if I'm a biomass manager, for example, how can I manage my flow of biomass so that it ends up into a sort of a stable carbon sink? So as I say, that project is due to finish up this year, but as a direct result, we were asked to coordinate and participate in the follow-on project. And this time we're looking specifically at carbon conversion cycles from cultivation to construction, so C5. And this time we've chosen the pilot region of Connacht, but again, it's all across Northwest Europe. This project has just had its kickoff meeting there a few weeks ago, and it'll run until 2029. In Ireland, what the project work plan, well, overall, is to try and develop innovative carbon-based cultivation systems. So from crop to construction is what we're thinking. Now, in Germany and Netherlands and in Belgium, specifically we'll be looking at hemp cultivation within areas prone to nitrate sensitivity. In Ireland, we're more likely just to be focusing on willow as an energy crop or as a construction potential crop, but also agroforestry production. And then there's also elements of the work package we should be looking at the phytoremediation potential of any of these materials. So whether it can be used to uptake heavily polluted land, contaminated with metals or PFAS, which is quite common across continental Europe, maybe less of an issue here in Ireland. But in Ireland, we have our own challenges with environmental pollutants, such as deteriorating water quality from runoff. And then any of the material that doesn't lend itself well to construction materials will possibly serve as material for biochar production. Now, when I say construction materials, we have sort of 3 different sort of quality standards in mind. So at the higher quality level, the University of Castle have been developing processes of making things out of willow filament, and I'll show you what that looks like in a moment. So that would be kind of a high quality structural element, decorative elements using biomaterials, willow fiber effectively. Any of the medium quality material from our biomass streams, such as hemp fiber and shivs, will be used within hempcrete or hemp fiber insulation, for example, or pressed composites. And then any of the lesser quality materials, such as the residual biomass, any of the bits that are not usable, we will explore their routes into biochar for concrete or for asphalt. And then, as I say, any of these projects, we have a recommender system to try and increase the uptake of the results and the learnings across other project partners. In Ireland, our consortium, we have a new Irish partner. He's a willow grower from Ballina, Derek Hannock, and Lean Green Management Services. We're also joined by our long-standing project partners, the Municipality of Enschede, University of Castle, Blended Learning Institute, and Uni La Salle, and also some new partners. So Planet Chanvre and BAFA are involved in the cultivation of hemp and hemp genetics. Valbium is a bioeconomy specialist, and as is Artvelda. They'll all be looking at various different aspects of the project. And then we're also delighted to have quite a strong, robust list of associated partners within the project. So Raymond is in the room somewhere. Raymond, Future Bright Studios, so that's a nice intersection of design and pyrolysis. So Raymond has been working with us through the Interreg projects over the last number of years. We also are delighted to have FutureCast, which are a support agency for the quarry and construction sector. Very innovative company, doing interesting stuff with 3D printing social housing, 3D printing concrete, for example. And then we also have ACT Studio, also based in Ballina, and they are doing lots of design work in terms of reimagining urban realms to make them more livable, more resilient to impacts of flooding or from drought, and they can see the value that biochar might have within those sort of systems. Now, I mentioned the decorative willow filament. We visited University of Castle there recently for the kickoff meeting. So they've developed a method of basically processing willow whips into a long continuous spool or a long continuous fiber, which can then go on to be used in traditional textile weaving and pattern making machines to make intricate shapes and designs. So it was quite an interesting tour. They're hoping to, they're only at sort of the prototyping stage, but they hope to have their first commercial industrial trials using industrial equipment early in January. And so it might be just another market for willow farmers or willow growers other than just combustion. Next up, so this is a whole new consortium, and we're delighted to be involved, slightly different, and this is more in the bioeconomy space. It's called Valorant, and that's all about valorization of agricultural residues. So the idea was to try and utilize some of 8 widely available commercial horticultural crop residues covering fruit, flower, and vegetable markets, and use a proper true-to-form cascading use valorization of biomass using a couple of different valorization pathways. So the very first pass will be looking at polyphenol extraction, which is a high value, can feed into nutraceutical food markets as functional feed ingredients, and maybe worth more than the value of the actual initial crop in the first place. So any material that doesn't lend itself well to polyphenol production, we're looking at maybe doing protein production. And that's looking at things like microalgae, microbial fermentation, or insect larvae or insect farming. And then the reason we were asked to join is any of the material that doesn't lend itself to those first 2 pathways would then be serving biofuel, biochar, and biogas recovery, so energetic recovery or biochar production. And again, all these projects have 3 work packages, but just to touch upon the apple, the feedstocks we're looking at, there was a lot of thought and consideration given into what feedstocks to focus on. Because these are all food grade effectively, there's available in wide amounts or large amounts across Europe. We're looking at apple, grape, strawberry, pear, carrot, lettuce, and then 2 flowers, chrysanthemum and Gerber flower. And so the work packages will be looking at sort of joint decision frameworks to so basically tease out which process flows go from which material and which is best served by different applications. Then we'll be developing a number of pilot actions to validate and evaluate any of the decision frameworks that have been developed, and then again, as I say, capacity building to try and uptake the results in different regions and train farmers and agricultural stakeholders how this might lend itself to minimizing their crop losses. And then in terms of consortium itself, so some of our partners you'll recognize there, Valbium is on our other partner as well, our other project, but the project has been led by Thomas More University in Belgium. We have Val Royale from France, Greenport, it's a consortium of greenhouses for commercial horticulture in Holland. ILVO is based in Flanders, they're a research agency similar to Chagask in Belgium. Dranco and Trien are specialists looking at sort of biofuels and biogas recovery from substrates. And Varta specializes in sort of extraction of polyphenols and various other bioeconomy applications. And then finally, completing the consortium is Climaticus. So Morris is in the room, he's our other Irish partner. He'll be doing work into life cycle assessment and life cycle costings of any of these systems. And again, we had a recent kickoff meeting over in Thomas More University. Again, they took us a tour of their facilities. They're already producing microalgae species from chrysanthemum juice and doing polyphenol extraction from apple pomace and a variety of different applications. They also have an insect rearing facility. Insect flower is not something I want to eat myself, but it might be suitable for certain markets. Now, A slight departure from our Interreg, but also with some of our long-standing project partners, namely Blink, the Blended Learning Institute. We were asked to participate in Erasmus Plus project. Now, Erasmus Plus marks a departure from Interreg, but it's all around the biomass to biochar value chains, and this time in the vocational educational training sector for agriculture. And we'll be partnered with Blink from Germany, also Doyle Neuenberg, which is a vocational educational training center in Germany that trains the next generation of farmers. And the idea is that we will take the learning modules we've developed over our previous Interreg projects and introduce them to the vocational educational training system within Albania. Now, I was a bit clueless about the Albanian agricultural sector, but we had our kickoff meeting there recently in Germany, and there's an awful lot of subsistence farming with the average farm size is about 2 acres or less, and a lot of fruit and nut production. At the moment, they just burn their waste, and so there's a lot of scope for biomass to biochar value chains to be implemented on the local scale within the Albanian vocational agricultural training system. Again, JJ briefed you on this project. We're delighted to be part of it. It's an excellent project, and it's our one national project, national focus project. I won't dwell on it anymore, other than to say it's an excellent consortium makeup, some really strong bodies there, and hopefully it'll go a long way to paving the way for the biochar sector to continue to develop across Ireland, particularly the Just Transition region, but anything that's applicable within those 8 counties is applicable to the rest of the country. And then finally, as of yesterday, we had our kickoff meeting for a brand new project. I apologize to any Dutch counterparts in the room if I get the pronunciations wrong, but it's been led by Wageningen University. That was a mouthful. And this time it's a Dutch-focused project funded by the Dutch government, and it's trying to develop biochar-based growing medium and substrates. So as we know, peat substrates, their use is not long for this world, and we're trying to realize how we can amend using peat-free substrates, and many of these companies that you see on the list here as the partners already have peat-free production lines using cocoa coir and wood fiber and various other components. But there's a big push on to see if they can do more by inclusion of biochar. And so, as I say, as of yesterday, we had the kickoff meeting. That'll run for the next 4 years. Some of the biggest sort of commercial horticultural substrate producers are part of that project, as are Eurofins and RHP, which is the Dutch agency responsible for certifying growing substrates. So you see IrBEA's role within this project is pretty much a dissemination for events like this, talking about the project, bringing it to the European stakeholder groups, and trying to do what we've been doing over the last number of years through the Interreg project, is to promote the sector and to get people to be aware of the potential biochar can have across a whole variety of different applications. And with that in mind, I suppose, as I say, I'll just finish with this slide. We're the latest member of Biochar Europe. Also, we're members of Bioenergy Europe, and they all do great work in trying to push this sector along. I'm also a member of the International Biochar Initiative, and we're members of the European Biogas Association. Why the need for so much R&D into the biochar sector? It's not the easiest sector to make scale and make profitable from the first get-go. There's a lot of mistakes being made by lots of people over the years. But the time is now to try and mobilize it, to get it to a point where it's widely sort of understood, rolled out, and I would love to see every county having their own biochar production facility, because it is probably one of the most cost-effective ways we have of carbon dioxide removal at scale. Now, we're always open to collaboration. As you see, we have quite a broad network of different collaborative partners, so if at any stage you want to put together a project application, my door is always open, so give me a shout. And with that, I'll hand you back to Sean. Thanks very much.
Steve over there, and Julia's coming up as well.
Okay, yep.
Yeah. Okay, thanks very much, Stephen, and thanks for your presentation. So, are there any questions, very briefly, before we get up our next speaker? Are there any questions for JJ or Stephen? Yeah, Raymond. So, Noel. We just get you a mic there, Raymond. Stop Raymond there, yeah.
Yeah, just on the innovation voucher type scheme that you'll be rolling out. How exactly will that work? Like, can you give an example of how that will work for whoever's involved?
So let's say someone wanted to look at the potential to take a particular, well, there are a couple of options. An example would be, let's say you wanted to, you were making something similar to Stephen spoke about there, an alternative to peat as a composting material for as a growing medium, a soilless growing medium. We would, as part of the innovation voucher, you would be given a certain amount of, you would be given, the value will be between 5,000 and 10,000 euro, and you can use that however you wish. But the addition, I suppose the benefit of this, what I would call targeted innovation voucher for anywhere, any project along the biochar supply chain would be that we would also provide support. So you would have access to laboratory facilities to test the biochar. You would have access to the business models because we have people like Killashee and ICOS who are developing those. So you would have access to a much wider range of expertise than if you, for instance, were, because the alternative is to apply for an innovation voucher through Enterprise Ireland. This will be very, very targeted. And the range of expertise that will be part of our project will be available to any of the recipients of the vouchers.
Okay, thanks very much, JJ Morris. And we'll take one final question because we need to move on to ACO, I think.
I saw in your slides that you were mentioning you were going to evaluate biochar in the context of Renewer. How do you see it, say, aiding Renewer and that whole supply chain? And is there a risk the biochar could lock up ammonia and make it more difficult to achieve Renewer criteria?
It's a good question. We won't know unless we test against the Renewer standard. So there is a standard produced by the JRC. They've given specific specifications for what's required. So simple ones would be the amount of carbon in the product, and that could be difficult for us to achieve. But if it goes onto the soil dilute, where you have, so if you were to put a biochar on its own onto the soil, it wouldn't meet the Renewer specifications, because the specification for biochar is you need a high carbon content. The specification for Renewer is that the biochar content must be less than 0.3, or let's say it's 30%. But by diluting with a dilute digestate, you can now meet the requirements. So we will be looking to see how we can, I suppose, engineer the digestate correctly so that it meets the requirements of Renewer, and that will open a market for farmers to use these products to derogate.
Okay, that's it. I think we thank both JJ and Stephen for your presentations, and certainly it's an exciting sector, a fledgling sector, and one which no doubt will present opportunities of the future. Our next session, session 5, thanks guys.